The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Today is Wednesday. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I'm going to be with you for the next 2 hours talking about autism and how we can be more efficient, more effective, working with a child on the autism spectrum to help them to reach their fullest potential. But you know what? This show, it grows and it grows and it grows in different ways, and we listen to you guys, and I always say that at the start of the show, but we're also starting to add segments in so that if you are an individual who is on the autism spectrum and you're a teenager or an adult, hopefully we're going to add some more stuff for you as well so that you can be an effective member on your team to reach your fullest potential. How's that? That's a very exciting thing to me. And we've got a lot of fun and exciting stuff that we're going to be doing today. You know, Wednesdays are a whirlwind, and I have to tell you, we've got even some more really exciting stuff coming up in Wednesdays in the future. Stuff that I think is just going to make you very excited. It certainly makes me very excited. And again, we're talking about helping a child to reach their fullest potential, and that encompasses a lot of things. And I do like to remind you guys that we talk about ABA on the show a lot. And there's some good reasons why, because ABA is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. You know, that's an important thing. And I know a lot of you like to follow the science and because look, we've got a limited amount of time and we certainly have a limited amount of funds and we want to be effective, right? So that's one of the reasons why we talk about ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, that and the fact that I know that when we talk about ABA, that no matter where your child is on the spectrum, no matter what their skill level, no matter what their age level, you can use ABA and get positive results, that you can make progress. There are a lot of other things that we also talk about, and sometimes it's individualized for, this might be good for your child, but it may not be. And there's something else that, this might be something you want to look into depending on how your child is and what's going on with them. But in terms of something that covers everybody, I know that ABA will. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk about other things. We certainly do. And I always like to remind you also that I'm not an expert in ABA. I'm not an expert in autism. I'm not an expert certainly not an expert in your child. And I struggle on a daily basis to be an expert on my own child. And I will freely tell you that today I am not an expert in my own child because he's growing and changing. He informed me last night, he was in the back seat, he said, I'm having growing pains again in my legs, so by this time next week, I'm going to be taller, is what he said to me. And I literally, he's changing physically, but also he's changing in terms of who he is. He's 9 and it goes so fast, right? But he makes progress and it adds new things. There's things to work on, right? And I know that in whatever realm you're in, whatever place your child is in on the spectrum, whatever their age, that the same is true for them. They just keep on growing. And that's a really positive thing, but we have to run to catch up with them. And so we talk about things here to help you to be more effective, to help me and to help you to be able to keep up with them. And I say me as well, because if you watch the show, my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, and he was very profoundly affected. He had the kind of autism that he regressed into it, had already been speaking in sentences, and then we lost it all. We lost it all, and truthfully lost him, and had to work to get all of that back. And he does speak now. I'm very happy and grateful that he speaks. He's still, there are some times, some ways that he words things that I have to sort it out because I don't know exactly what he's talking about, but we have conversations about things that are meaningful. And that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. But I always remind you, we're always working, just like you guys are. But I'm incredibly grateful for the huge amount of support that we had and the huge amount of progress that we had. And it's my goal in being here to try to help you to get connected with the things that you need. I know I got incredibly lucky. Look, that's, I get that. And I want to help you to be luckier. That's really what we talk about here. And we're here for you if you want to write in and say, here's what I need. Here's the help and support that I'm looking for. Here's the question I need answered. Or here's the question that I would like to answer, because I know you guys have answers that I don't have. So let's be connected. Let's help each other and help other people to connect to the answers and the questions that they have. How do you do that? Lots of different ways. If you're watching us right now on autism-live.com, you're seeing my head talking, and there's a box next to that that's empty at the moment. Above it, it says Shannon is answering right now. And if you type into that box and hit enter, it shows up here on my screen, and you and I can have a conversation. You can talk to the people that we're going to have in the show. We got a lot of people coming on the show today. I'm a little bit lost count of how many people are going to be in the studio today, but it's very, very exciting. So you could be having a conversation with them. You can have a conversation with me. We're live, and so if that box says Shannon is answering right now, go for it. There's no cost. There's no credit card. You don't have to give your information. You don't have to fill out. You don't have to register. Isn't that nice? Isn't that shocking? Isn't that unusual? So take advantage of it. What do you want to say? You can say, I'm having a rough day, or anything else, right? You can say, I want to know about this. And if it's something that I can't cover on this show, we'll cover it in an upcoming show. All right. So if that box says rebroadcast, it means you're not watching us live. We broadcast 2 hours a day live, and the rest of the time we show you recent shows that we have taped. Or if you're watching us on another site, then you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't have that box. I don't know what box she's talking about. That's only on autism-live.com, our home. But there are still ways that you can get in touch with us, is my main point that I want you to know. You can email us, no matter where you're watching us, how you're watching us, or how long ago the show was, how long ago the expert was here. We stay in contact with all of our experts. So email us. Anytime, day or night, we'll get your email. We'll cover it on the next available live show. We'll send you a typewritten response. Sometimes we will send your email on to an expert and have them send you a typewritten response or contact you. It's really, and as I said, it's free. So no questions asked. We want to be helpful and supportive. So there you go on the email. Other ways of getting in contact with us, you can phone us. We have a phone line that you can call and be patched in directly into the studio. If you want to call and talk to some of our guests later on today, you absolutely can. Or if you want to leave us a message, if it's the weekend or it's the middle of the night where we are, it might be 8 o'clock in the morning your time, but it might be 2 a.m. for us. That's okay. Leave us a message and we will get back to you. Same thing. And you can also Skype in with us, by the way. If you want to Skype into the live show, we have a guest that's going to be Skyping with us later on. Isn't technology wonderful? This gives us the opportunity to connect with you and connect with experts literally all around the world. We've Skyped internationally, and so if you're watching us, I know there's 103 countries that are watching us, so wherever you're watching us from, if you've got Skype, we can do this. It just might be an interesting time of day or night for you or for us, but we have the technology. Isn't that what they say? Okay, you can also connect with us on Facebook. We have our very own Facebook page, and while you're there, if you give us a like, we appreciate it, and share what you want on that page, answer the question of the day. And we also have a Twitter account. We are at Autism Live Show. So, and I haven't been on in a day or so, but I need to get on there. And I promise you, if you follow us, we will follow you. That's my deal to you. and you can converse with us there on Twitter. I mentioned there are other ways to watch us. You can be watching us on blip.tv, and it's like having your own personal DVR. That's a great way to watch episodes that you've missed. Search topics, hit pause, rewind, all free. There's no cost to watch us on blip.tv. You can also be doing that on YouTube. We have all the full entire shows are on YouTube, but we also try to cut little pieces, highlights from the show to put on there for you, so that if you just want to see the piece yesterday about afternoon routines, about how we can set our kids up for success, or you want to see, just when Dr. Jonathan Tarbox was talking about new guidelines that insurance companies are hopefully going to pay attention to, or if you want to watch Ashley Langlears, who we had on a Monday, talking about ABA with older kids. You can also do that. You can put search in, you can search dates or subjects and find it on YouTube. And then if it's something that's of use to you, you can share it if you choose to. We love it when you guys share. It makes it possible for more people to get the information, and that's really what we're about here. And also you can download us, entire episodes, for free on iTunes. Totally free. There's no cost. How lovely is that? So check us out on iTunes. Okay, and we're also available on Ustream. I always forget to say that, but we are available on Ustream. Okay. So participate and encourage others to participate. I'm sure that whenever I meet somebody, I tell them about Autism Live, they're like, how come I don't know about this? And I always say, well, we spend our time on other things. We don't spend it on marketing, and we certainly don't spend money on advertising. So we count on you. If you like the show, share it with people. Let them know that you share it. And we really, really, really appreciate it. Okay. We've got so much to do today, so we got to get right to the jargon of the day. I'm already past time here. So, jargon of the day, this is the time of day when we take one word, one phrase, one anagram, and we try to make sense out of it. In a parent perspective, teacher perspective, I didn't go to college for 8 years for psychology perspective, right? Because we need to understand these terms. We have to make friends with them. We have to know what they mean when someone says it and applies it to our child. And eventually we need to know how to do some of these things. So we've been talking about prompts this week. And so today our term is physical prompt. We talked a little bit yesterday about fading prompts. So a physical prompt, let's look at our actual definition. An extra stimulus in the form of physical guidance presented along with the discriminative stimulus, which increases the likelihood of a correct response. Okay. Now, as definitions go, this is one of the ones that I point to and go, really? Because what they've done is given us more jargon words, right? And if you don't know what stimulus is or discriminative stimulus is, then you go, I don't get what that means. It's not of great use to me. All right, so let's go to our working definition here. Physically guiding the child through the desired response. So we talked yesterday about prompts, and prompts are things that we do that are kind of a helping hand, so that it's something that's going to be extra added on, that's going to encourage the behavior. We do this all the time. You and I do this. I gave the example yesterday of when you say to somebody, can you hand me that pen over there? And they're looking in the wrong area. What do? We point. It's a physical prompt. We point because it's going to help them to get the desired response. Instead of just saying to them again, although sometimes we do this as well, can you get me the pen on the desk? Right? We could just say it again and again and again, but if they're looking over here and not looking at the desk, then we got a problem, right? So and we're not trying to trick them. So we do something to help them. And so we point over here, and then they see it and go, oh, okay, the one on the desk. Oh, right, okay. And they go and get it. That's with our friends and our family and other people, right? So we want to do the same things with our children on the autism spectrum. So there are a whole bunch of physical prompts, like we could point, we can gesture to do something, we can call attention to something by pointing to it or gesturing towards it, saying, do this. This is a physical prompt, and I might be smiling, hopefully not that painfully that I just did, but something that we do physically, or that we're physically going to actually put our hands on them and literally, I'm thinking more of gesture prompts, but physical prompt, actually putting hands on and guiding them through and helping them to do it. And it doesn't have to be manhandling. It should never be manhandling, but being very gentle. I can remember my mom teaching me how to knit, and her putting her hands over mine and leading me through, how to do it, because I was left-handed and she had to do it that way. Otherwise, she wasn't going to get it, and I wasn't going to get it either. But we can be very gentle and kind about it. And it doesn't have to, that's a full physical prompt if we're hand over hand. I always think of the example of, when people say, I don't know how to get my child to pick up toys. I stand there and say, pick up your toys, and my child doesn't do it, right? Of course not. Of course not. And I remember showing a mom with her neurotypical child, how we do this. We go over and say, okay, pick up the toy. And if the child doesn't, we literally gently take their hand, reach down, put their hand around the toy, do the claw grasp over, pick up the toy. And now the important aspect, we go, yay, you picked up the toy, and put it in the bucket. Yay, you're putting the toys away. Let's do it again. And doing it again. And within less than 3 minutes, her child was picking up things and putting them away. And she went, oh my gosh. Okay, seriously, could that have been easier? So we do physical prompts so that we can help our child to get the desired response, but it's a physical thing, and we start to fade it as quick as we possibly can. That's the whole thing with prompts. We don't want them to be prompt dependent ever. We don't want a situation where we're following the child endlessly picking up toys, right? We have to fade it as quickly as possible. Physical prompts. Okay, let's move on to our question of the day. Question of the day is meant to get you thinking, participating. We've been talking, of course, about funding all week long. So my question to you today is, who has helped you with funding for autism treatment and therapy? And this is a great example of a question where write in and say who's helping you, because it lets other people know. I know that some of you have been ACT Today grant recipients. If you have not already applied for a grant from ACT Today, they're not in a grant phase right now. We let you know when they are, but check out their website, www.act-today.org. Wonderful organization. They give grants. I can remember somebody saying, oh, there's lots of organizations out there that give grants for autism. You just got to Google them, and putting autism grants in and getting a whole bunch of things that were scams. But this organization is the real deal. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, who's the executive director of it, she's going to be with us at 11 o'clock for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. She's the real deal. She is the real deal, and that organization is the real deal. Lots of people have gotten grants, but who else has helped you on your way? Write in and tell us. We're going to get to those either today or tomorrow to read them, and it will help everyone else who sees it. Maybe they'll find a funding source. One of the organizations that helped us was the Jewish Free Loan Association. You can find them online. I think it's JFLA.org. I think that's what it is. Jewish Free Loan Association. They gave us a loan, an interest-free loan at one point when we were we had an arrangement where our services at school would be paid for, but we had to pay for it first out of pocket, and then they would reimburse us. And we said, oh, that's no problem, because we'll get reimbursed. Well, it was like a cool $4,000 and $5,000 a month that we were having to shell out and then wait for them to write a check. And then, it got really hairy. We had taken money out of retirement to do that, but then it was overlapping. We were in a problem, a really big problem. And Jewish Free, and we're not Jewish, and we were told, this is the organization you go to. They give free loans for things like this, and of course you have to pay it back, and we did. We paid it back in its entirety. But can I tell you, I don't even know where we would have been had that not happened. So I think it's important for all of us to share who helped you when the chips were down. Also, we got our funding from the North Los Angeles Regional Center here in California. They really helped us. So instead of keeping it a secret, let's all say, here's where we got the money from, and then somebody who's coming along will know where to start instead of having to look and look and look. Really good. Write in and tell us. Okay, we always have a topic of the week, and our topic of the day of the week this entire week is funding. Because we need to talk about it from time to time. It's not pleasant, but we have to, because it's a big part of this puzzle for us as parents. And there are some solutions. There are people who get it done. I literally, on the first day, said, somebody's going to have to help us. I don't know how to do this. I really don't know how to do this on top of everything else we're going through emotionally. We don't have the money to do this. And people helped us. They said, here's how we did it. And I said, okay, then I'm going to literally walk in your tracks and see if I get the same place you did. And that's exactly what we did. So I don't want you to have to reinvent the wheel. So we're talking about that all week long, and the stress that comes with funding, frankly. All right, to that end, some really amazing things that we have going on today. In just a few minutes, we're going to bring in BCBA, Evelyn Gould. It's our regular segment that we do with her on Wednesdays. And then at 11 o'clock, we are having Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson from ACT Today come in and do Let's Talk Autism with us, as we do every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. We have at least one special guest that we're going to be Skyping with today, Denise Fulton from the Autism Research Institute. They have a conference coming up in just a couple of weeks that she's an autism mom, and we want her to share information about this conference. And there is a rumor that we have a special guest who is going to also be joining us before we talk to Denise. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a rapper. So we'll see. That's a rumor. I'm not sure. I don't have confirmation, but we might have somebody particularly really fun to be with us today. But I will tell you, it's not 50 Cent. Okay, that's not happening. All right, not today anyway. I wish she would come on. I wish we could talk about some of these things. I wish we could, but not today. He's not answered our email. What can we say? But maybe somebody else who does answer our emails. I'm just saying. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we are going to be joined by Evelyn Gould, BCBA. Now's a great time to be sending in your questions. We have a couple of comments from yesterday that I didn't see before we close the show that we'll also address. Stick with us.
Skills is a revolutionary web-based program that incorporates comprehensive assessment, curriculum design, progress tracking, and treatment evaluation for children with autism all in one place. Developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our approach is based on over 40 years of research on the principles of learning and their application to improving the lives of children with autism. How does Skills work? Created with speed and simplicity in mind, Skills was modeled on an easy 3-step process. Step 1. Start assessment. Step 1 begins with our intelligent assessment system, which consists of a series of questions. This assessment is essential to identifying your child's level of skills compared to their typical peers across all areas of development. This includes assessing social, motor, language, adaptive, play, cognition, executive functions, and academic skills. Every skill has an assigned age, which indicates when the skill emerges during typical development. This means that each child is automatically presented only with lessons that are relevant to his or her age. Step 2. Choosing activities. It's now easier than ever to build an individualized treatment plan. In Step 2, you are presented with an individualized pool of activities that are directly linked to your students' assessment results. Each activity represents a specific skill that has been indicated by the assessment as needing to be taught. Activities are categorized by curriculum and then by lesson. There are 3 main types of skills: building blocks, fundamental, and expansion skills. Fundamental skills are necessary for successful everyday functioning. Building blocks are prerequisites to a fundamental skill. Expansion skills are non-essential skills, but may provide further enrichment in certain areas. After reviewing the activities available to you, you can quickly add your chosen activities to the treatment plan by simply checking the box and clicking the button. Step 3. Start treatment. Once you have selected and added the activities you want, you are ready to begin teaching. Skills provide you with all the tools necessary to design and manage an effective curriculum plan, such as printable activity guides that are customizable by the teacher, supplemental teaching aids including printable data sheets, teaching guides, visual aids, worksheets, and tracking forms, detailed IEP goals and benchmarks for each activity, brief and visually appealing video tutorials, a variety of treatment progress and clinical timeline charts, and lots more. And since Skills is completely web-based, everything you need is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in one easy-to-access location. Skills users even benefit from unlimited access to a support community, where they can ask questions and share ideas with a skills expert. Skills is always with you.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our special guest right now is Evelyn Gould, BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst. She joins us on Wednesdays. So thrilled to have her here. She's always a breath of fresh air and always, I don't know about you guys, but she always helps me to center my thoughts that are all over the map and be productive, and reminds me that I get to be a person, I get to have my feelings, I get to be overwhelmed and accept that that's what it is some days and just do the level best I can on that day, and that that's enough. You always do that for me, which I need to pay you. I give you a check for reminding me that on a regular basis. I have a little housekeeping to do here though, right before we talk. There were 2 things that people wrote in at the end of yesterday's show that I didn't get to. The first one, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for you right now, is somebody wrote in and said, I would just like for my daughter to have homework. We were talking about the afternoon routine, and that the teachers don't like to give it to her. And I just want to remind all of you that there are a lot of things that teachers don't want to do and that they don't like to do, and they have their own reasons, and it's worthwhile to have a conversation with them to say why don't you want for her to have homework, but and to communicate with them. But at the end of the day, what's in the IEP is legally what they have to do, whether they want to do it or not. So I would encourage you to first talk to the teachers and say, here's my position. I mean, I have a conference today, a progress conference with my son's teacher, and we're going to talk about, different things. And don't make it confrontational, but just say, I really wish we had homework. And for a parent to say that to a teacher, I've been a teacher, and usually, you go, oh, really? You want more homework? I'm happy to give you more homework. If that's not the reaction, I would love to know why, as a parent and as a former teacher, why they don't want to give your child homework. Because it would be interesting to know, and maybe they have a good reason. I don't know, but to ask, and then if you see that it's not working out and you're saying I want homework and they're saying no, then the very next opportunity that you have to do an IEP, I would make sure that you get it written into the IEP. Anything you would add to that in terms of, I can't think why a teacher wouldn't want to give somebody homework.
No, that's actually the first thing that I thought of when you said that. It was like, I wonder why the teacher doesn't want to give the child homework, and is it an issue of the teacher's not sure how to adapt what they're working on in class for the particular child, or is it something about they don't think the child should be doing homework? Or I would be trying to figure out why it is that the teacher doesn't think it's appropriate to give the child homework.
Yeah, and if it's just that they're afraid of overwhelming the child, maybe you can quiet that fear. But I can't imagine if they're having trouble adapting the homework for the child. That's a red flag for me. They need some help and support. Not that the teacher needs, is incompetent or whatever, but it means that they need some help and support. But that bothers me. That a lot of times I think people want to be extra nice to us. They want to, they don't want to burden us. They don't want to put too much on us, and they think if they give homework that it's going to put stuff. But we can be clear with them and say, oh, no. My expectations for this child are X, Y, and Z. How about you burden me? Come on now. I had this conversation with friends the other day. I shared briefly that my son, we had some very bad behavior on Saturday night. And I had to go back to my friends and say, okay, we got to talk about this. We got to figure this out. Because he left a party crying and saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do to get them to play with me. Oh, it was just horrible. But I went back to friends and said, and we got to talk about the full bore, and everybody was so wonderful about it when we talked about it. But one of the things that I heard was, oh, I didn't want to do X, Y, and Z because I thought that would be inappropriate. And they meant well. They actually meant well. And I said, oh, no. Let's, don't be extra nice to my child and let him get away with something at all. That's not, and thank you for thinking that and being considerate, but that's not what we need. Oh my goodness. And so she just wrote in and said they don't feel that it's necessary to do so, but trust me, it will be on the next IEP. They don't feel it's necessary to give a child homework, then, that's a warning thing for me. Because sometimes you get people who don't think that our kids can do the work. And I let everybody know up front that we're not buying into that. We're not participating in that.
Your child is not at school just to sit there and be present. The point is the child is supposed to be accessing an education, and as far as I'm concerned, homework is part of that education. Yeah. And good for you. I hear that. Trust me, it will be on the next IEP. You go, parent, you. We support you in that because, and literally that's the legal document. And if it's on there that your child has to have homework, they're going to get homework for your child. And it'll be interesting for them to see. I had one teacher a long time ago who was trying to soft pedal with our child a little bit on math. And I got very upset and said, oh, no. We're not doing that. And it simply was because she thought it would be too challenging for him. And my child is a math whiz. So, and I was so shocked when she was like, well, we don't want to put that demand on him. And I said, yes, we do. We want to put demands on him because this individual child, pay attention. It's terrible. As parents, sometimes we have to communicate. The teachers mean well. Most of the time. Okay, and the other comment that somebody wrote in about was, and I don't know which question they were answering, but they were saying, sleep for me. I don't remember the last time I got a really good night. And I don't know whether that's because of their child challenging behavior or because of all the anxiety that comes with, we've been talking a lot about funding and all the things that come with funding. But anything that you would like to... The thing about sleep is that it's a complicated one because it's very much a physiological and psychological hot pot or whatever you want to call it. And so, and unfortunately then once you start getting bad sleep habits and a bad sleep problem, it kind of makes itself worse. And you can aggravate the physiological side of things and the psychological side of things. And so there's probably a lot of different factors going into that, I imagine, and we don't know whether it's the child, whether your child has a sleep problem and then that causes the parent to have a sleep problem, and then the parent's sleep problem can actually aggravate the child's sleep problem.
Absolutely.
And you kind of get in a cycle, or whether the child sleeps fine but the parent is dealing with a lot of stress. Undoubtedly having a child with autism, you're going to be stressed and have a lot of chronic kind of stuff going on. And then there's individual factors as well. Like some people are more susceptible to sleep problems than others, and so on. So it's
it's probably a lot of different things, and I would need to know a bit more. If I was trying to help with this, I would need to know more of the specifics as to what to suggest. But then a sleep intervention a good sleep intervention is going to take into account all of these different factors, like your sleep routine, we call it sleep hygiene. So like the environment, the sleep environment, the routine that you're in, and then looking at like the physiological side, physical side of stuff. And you know, sometimes it can require a whole change across your life. And even myself, like I used to be a very, very poor sleeper, and took a long time to get to sleep. I was constantly worrying, didn't sleep very well, and it took me to get into an exercise routine and change the way that I approach going to bed and not having other things going on, and eventually I've actually got a reasonable good sleep. For the first time, I think maybe four years ago, I started sleeping properly, and I didn't have the stuff that this parent is probably dealing with on my plate.
Well, we all have our own stuff.
It's complicated, and then there's going to be specifics as well involved in whatever her sleep issues are.
And I agree. You know, it's okay. We've got an answer here too, but I just want to finish my thought that, you know, it's looking at everything.
Exactly.
When Jem was going through the beginning of autism, my husband had to leave for work at 4:15 in the morning, and because he had an elopement issue, I had to get up with my husband at 4:15 in the morning, and all I had to do was we had a hotel lock on that my child couldn't reach, but my husband couldn't put it on from the opposite side of the door, so every morning I had to get up at 4:15, and it, like, if the smallest thing happened, like if my husband spoke to me or whatever, that was it. I could not go back to sleep. Like I had to literally like sleepwalk, put the thing on the door, and go back to bed. And there were a lot of times that I just didn't get to sleep, and we had to rearrange a lot.
I actually was at a conference recently and met this guy, a doctor who works in London, and he specializes in insomnia. And he actually is using some behavior analysis based psychotherapy type stuff, the ACT, acceptance commitment therapy stuff, with his patients a lot more. He's actually a physiologist, but he was telling me that he started incorporating the ACT stuff into his work and being a lot more successful. And what he realized was that a great deal of the problems that the physiological problems could actually be fixed by helping people, one, not focusing so much on the sleep problem, so getting them to look at the rest of their lives and concentrate on what they value and all this kind of thing, these kind of ACT stuff, helping them do more mindfulness-based relaxation, look at their sleep environment, their behavior, their thoughts, whatever thoughts are interfering with allowing them to sleep and so on. And he found that those types of interventions were very successful for him.
Great.
So
wonderful. Starting to look at it. It's a lot, but starting to look at it and think about, just like when we look at a behavior with a child and saying, what are the factors here? What's going on? What's the before? What's the behavior? What's the consequence for it? What else is happening? What are the mitigating? What are the EOs
what's
that are?
the environment? What's the setting environment look like? And what are the consequences? And what's going on in your head as well as physically and around you.
Yeah, because just like our kids, you know, we set ourselves up for success or failure. And one of the things that somebody said to me, I was engaging in stuff that was really stressful right before I would go to bed. I would save all the paperwork for autism until Jem was asleep, which was really late at night. And so I would sit there for an hour and say to myself, I'm going to, you know, do all the paperwork for this. But then I would be in that mode. That didn't set me up for sleep. I had to move that to another time. The person wrote back and said, child has sleep problem, although it's getting better since they put that child on medication, but the person says, I just need to get back into a good sleep routine. Very likely. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We've got another question that just came in. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're also going to be talking about a wide range of stuff with Evelyn. I don't even want to mess it up and say what, but a response. Putting a can I be articulate for a second? When we're putting a replacement behavior in and response hierarchies and those kinds of things. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to take a break. We'll be back more with Evelyn Gould in just a minute. Oh, I'm so...
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our special guest right now is Evelyn Gould, BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and we've been answering questions, and we have a new comment that somebody had written in. My child didn't do well on his first state assessment, so instead of being responsible for 10 words, he is now only responsible for learning 2 words. Is this a hill I should die on? Meaning, is a state assessment a lot different from a daily assessment? Shannon, does your son take state assessments? Any experience with this? My child is in 3rd grade, so this is my first experience with lowering the bar for state tests. Not sure how to handle this one. Always, thank you for sharing your experience. Now, I got a couple of questions here. I'm assuming, and thank you first of all for writing in. It helps me when you write in. You guys say things that uplift me, so always thank you for writing in and participating. And it helps other people that we don't even know when you ask a question like that, because it reminds somebody else, oh, I'm not in this alone. But I assume when you say state assessment that you're talking about those standardized state tests that they give in school. They start them, I think it starts in 2nd grade in our state, in the state of California. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about when you say the state assessments. And I'm going to run with that. My son does take state assessments. A couple of things that I want you guys to know is that when you have those standardized tests, your child is allowed to have some accommodations depending on what the test is, and it's always a good idea to ask what accommodations are allowed and what accommodations are you going to give, and how are you going to skew the results according to the accommodations. Really good questions to be asking in progress meetings with teachers and at IEP meetings, because you can also write in those kinds of things into the IEP that you're requesting whatever be allowed. If your child took a state assessment and they're trying to change the IEP and downgrade a skill that they want them to do, I would challenge that personally, depending on if what your gut says. If you feel like that is going to stymie your child's progress, you can certainly make the case, and other parents have in the past, that state assessment, all kids don't do well on tests. And I don't know. Former teacher, I get really upset about when they try to teach kids to the test so that they just perform well on the test. I think that's a horrible thing. And when they take the test as the be-all, end-all of what the child can do, it is a very set of circumstances. I look at some of the things on those tests, and depending on where the child is, they could know the answer and not be able to answer it appropriately. So yeah, I personally, I think you got to think about what's right for your child, and if you think that your child can learn 10 words and they want to lower it to 2, you betcha I'd fight that. I would absolutely push, and come in with goals that you want. I always ask for what they want on the IEP, what they're going to present, and what the language is 48 hours before, so that I can go over it and I can come in with goals that I think are more appropriate. Usually when you do that, if it's within reason, they're going to take your goals. because usually the things they want to fight over at schools are support staff and things that cost money, not goals. And I believe that making them accountable. The first time that my son had an IEP, they gave us goals that he had already achieved, and I told them that that was a pile of hooey. My technical term for it. And their rationale was, well, he can do these things in a setting at home, but he can't do them with all the sensory things going on with a group of kids. And that their argument was, we want to work on these things with all the sensory things. And I said, we're not going to not teach him because of his sensory things. So I'm going to go for learning new skills as opposed to working on the sensory things. And I was right. As evidenced by how well he's doing. But, you know, every child is different, and I think a parent, you've got to think about what's right for you and what your gut says about what your child can do. And if your child had 10 words before, were they getting the 10 words? Or were they getting 9? I mean, do you need to lower it a little bit? But to go, if their rationale is we're going to go to 2 because he didn't do well on the state test, and that's their rationale, no, I'd fight that. And, you know, I don't know. That's me. Anything you want to, after I've just gone off?
Well, I would definitely agree with Shannon in that you should present what you think is realistic for your child, and then ask them to explain how they went from 10 to 2 and what about this test made them think that 2 was more appropriate. And I would discuss it for sure, definitely. You're not going to lose out by bringing up what you think is appropriate.
But you said it in a much nicer and more adult way that left room for conversation than I did, which I love, because I think that's probably exactly the right way to go and say, you know, what is there anything else that you're basing this on besides the test? Because
about the test? Because what aspects of the test? I mean, I don't know what the test was exactly. Or
right.
What about the test suggested to them that 2 was more appropriate words?
Right. And are they seeing something in the classroom to back that up?
Yeah.
It's a very frustrating thing, the state assessment. But I would also ask them, were accommodations given, and does your child need accommodations for that? But check your gut and have a conversation with them. Let us know what happens. And thank you for writing in. Okay, I guess I didn't show that. There we go. So we were going to talk about when you give a replacement behavior.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to behavior always happening for a reason. So every time your child engages in some kind of behavior problem, they're actually communicating with you, and this idea that people don't do things for no reason, they're always trying to meet a need. So no matter what the behavior is, no matter how dysfunctional it might look to us, or how out of the blue it appears to be, that is meeting a need of some description, and that need is determined. You know, you can tell that by whatever the consequences are for the behavior. So what we need to think about then is, whenever we're trying to get rid of a behavior, like a particular problematic behavior, that we don't just think, I just need to get rid of this behavior. You've got to bear in mind that that behavior is meeting some kind of need. So what can happen is, if you just try and get rid of that behavior, how is the child going to get their need met? Something else is going to come in and replace it. And that goes for all of us across the board. You know, you see that not just in children with autism, but like in adults who have, say, addictive problems or whatever, bad habits. You know, if you just take that away, then they need to get a need met, and they can easily substitute it for another bad habit. And the same with our kids. If we just try and get rid of a problem behavior, you may see another problem behavior coming in, which may be worse, even substituted in right away. So what we need to do is teach alternative behaviors, some other way that our child can get whatever the need is met. So that really emphasizes the need to figure out what is going on here. When you see a problem behavior, it's not just like, oh, you know, it's just happening out of the blue and we've got to get rid of it. We've got to think, what is this child trying to tell me?
Okay.
What are they trying to get?
Right.
And then figure out, well, what way could they get that isn't that behavior? So
it seems to me that the first step is recognizing that it's not random.
Exactly.
And I think that that's a huge thing for those of us with kids on the spectrum, because sometimes our kids engage in behavior that is so bizarre and new to us on this planet, and we go, what is that? And then of course there's that monster that pops up in the back of our head that goes, it's autism. It's the autism.
Right.
And we're never, it's not there for a reason. It's just the autism.
Exactly.
And not useful. Not useful to us, not going to change the behavior, not hopeful. And we have to let go of that, have that step to the side and realize that it's not random.
No, it's not.
It's got a purpose.
When your child has autism, what that just means is that might determine your child's having more difficulty with certain skills than others, or more difficulties in learning certain things. So your kid might be more likely to try and get things in a different way from, say, I would, or another child might. That's all that means. It doesn't mean, just because you have a label doesn't say you will do this, 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 and this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it isn't helpful to just say he's doing it because he has autism.
Okay.
He's doing it because he doesn't have another way, or the other ways that he has to meet a need are not as effective as throwing himself on the floor and screaming.
Okay, so our replacement behavior, when that horrible thought comes along that says it's autism, this bizarre behavior, it's autism, our replacement behavior then is, instead of, when we hear that monster popping up, we're going to say to ourselves,
This
why,
is working.
Yeah, this is working. What is it working to get? What is my child communicating to me? One of those questions in there about, why is this behavior happening?
Yes.
What purpose is
And
it
it's
serving?
always going to be to get something, whether that's attention or access to an activity or access to something else, or it's going to be to escape something. So it's to get out of doing something, to get rid of something he doesn't want, whether that's like, I don't want you talking to me, I don't want to be in this room anymore, I don't want to do this task anymore, I don't want to do what you're asking me to do, whatever it is. It's to escape something or to get something generally.
Right.
It could be to regain control over a situation.
Right. It could be to get rid of feeling the way I'm feeling.
It could be getting rid of anxiety feelings, or
it could be getting rid of feeling like nothing's happening.
Yeah, it could be boredom. Exactly. It could be to gain some kind of stimulation or some kind of interaction.
Right.
Absolutely. So it could be something going on externally. It could be something going on internally.
Right.
Because both, you kind of have an internal environment.
Right.
And then you have your external environment. But whatever the child is, whatever the behavior that's going on, it's to do something to either internal environment or external environment.
Okay, it is not random.
No.
That's the thing. I sort of need to get that tattooed on my forehead too. But because in the moment, it's like, what is that? What is that behavior?
And it cannot make any sense, just because often our kids are doing things which just make no sense in terms of their destructiveness, or they're not. The behaviours can maybe look a bit strange or out of place or whatever, so it is really easy just to be like, why, this has happened out of the blue, and it's autism.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, when we think it's autism, it's like a death. We lose hope because we think, and that's the way it's going to be, and we start to go down that really long, dark hallway. But it also encourages us to let it be.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not helpful to anyone. Certainly not to us and not to our kids. Okay, so we try to put a replacement behavior in that's going to serve the same function, but that's dicey.
So we have two issues. So first of all, we don't want to just think, I just got to get rid of this behavior without considering what it's doing for the child and what the payoff is. I always hear you say, what's the payoff?
Yeah, what's the paycheck here?
What's the paycheck? So you don't want to just get rid of a behavior, because if you don't replace it with something else, then your child still has to get this need met, and then you may end up with a worse behavior popping up. So that kind of substitution thing happens.
Have you ever seen the Jerry Lewis film, where it's an old Jerry Lewis film when he was very young, and he goes to the masseuse because he's got this thing happening with his leg where his leg keeps popping up, and they put him on the masseuse table and they massage his leg, and he says, oh, that feels so much better, and then his arm pops up.
Yeah,
and then they massage the arm and the other leg pops up. Yeah, so we don't want
that. We want to make sure we don't do that. So we really need to think about what need is being met here, and how can I get the behavior I want substituted in there, rather than my kid just figuring out something else.
Right. So it may be that the first thing we do doesn't work, but that doesn't mean we give up.
Right.
Okay.
So then once you've realized, okay, I need to substitute something else in here, that's your replacement behavior, you got to teach that replacement behavior. But then, of course, what you have to remember is, just because you teach that replacement behavior doesn't mean that it will necessarily automatically compete with a bunch of other behaviors that have worked for your kid in the past.
Okay.
So for example, if you have a kid who engages in sometimes screaming, throwing himself on the floor and biting his sibling, and you're like, I gotta get rid of this biting. So I realize he bites his sibling when he wants a toy. So I'm gonna teach him to ask for the toy. But then you still got screaming, throwing himself on the floor, and then you've got asking. And maybe these two have worked way better in the past and work quicker.
Right.
Perhaps. I mean, they might seem like they're a lot more effort.
Right.
So you kind of think, well, this is a lot more effort. And I often hear people saying, well, once we teach him to say the words, he'll realize that's so much less effort than throwing himself on the floor and throwing things and all that he will say, of course he's going to ask for it because it gets him what he wants really quickly and effortlessly. But that's not necessarily the case, because these two have been reinforced in the past and have been very effective. Right. So you may find that this behavior cannot compete with these two, so this won't automatically be used. So that's why we need to not just teach it, we've got to teach it, and then we've got to make sure we ignore these two, put these two other behaviors on extinction, or what we call it. We want to make sure we're putting an intervention for all the other behaviors.
Okay, we don't want to reinforce those
exactly.
two.
We've got to make sure these two don't happen. So that's where we talk about, Shannon, all the time, setting up for success. So you want to prompt your kid before the behavior happens, and set up the situation with lots of practice and lots of opportunities to reinforce your kid for requesting, to make sure you're building this into the most preferred, most efficient way to get the reinforcer.
Okay.
This has to be the most efficient response in the repertoire that your kid has. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I think we could talk about this for another hour, but we're essentially out of time, which is a bummer, because it's kind of fascinating. But it's a great place to start, and maybe we'll talk more about this next week. But I think, again, if we can recap the main points, understanding all behavior is for a reason, and that we can't just expect for behavior to evaporate and go away. We can sit there and wish,
something else
wish.
is going to be substituted in to meet that need.
And it's got to actually compete with the other things.
So we want to make sure we choose what gets substituted in for the problem behavior, and then we want to make sure that we don't just teach it and assume it's going to get used. We need to make sure it can be the most efficient. It has to be the most efficient way to get the reinforcer. It has to be the most efficient way to get the need met, and we need to provide lots of reinforcement, lots of practice opportunities, and lots of prompts, and make sure our teaching is strong enough. Does that make sense?
It does. And if it doesn't work the first time out, we got to tweak some things. We don't give up. It's not that it won't work. We just haven't found the right thing.
You've got to think, this just isn't efficient enough yet. It's not competing. What can I do to make it more likely that my kid will pick this behavior?
We have to be cleverer than we ever thought of being.
Yeah.
Detective work, but that's a really great thing. I thank you so much for being with us and answering some questions. We're going to take a break and watch the A Word, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Nancy Jackson. She's the Executive Director of Autism Care and Treatment Today, and we've got some really exciting things. We have an autism mom that's going to be joining us in a little while from the Autism Research Institute, Denise Fulton, and we may also have another special guest joining us in just a few minutes as well. I'm waiting to hear if my rumors have been confirmed. Big stuff. So stick with us. We'll be back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after the A Word.
I just wanted to ask you how you're adjusting with all these people coming in and out of the home.
Half of me is used to it. Half of me is no longer freaking out about how clean my house is, clearly. The other half of me is still really overwhelmed. And, if there's talk of one more thing that we add to our list for that week, sort of freaks me out, at least initially.
Well, it's easier now. It was very strange the first week. He's making progress. It's sort of relentless. When you think you have a moment to relax, oh, wait a minute. 9:30, so-and-so is showing up. But it's just an adjustment. It's not overwhelming necessarily. There are times where you just need an hour and it's not coming. But we've developed a fondness for all you guys, so that makes it easier. And he's making progress, so who really cares how inconvenient it is?
What color? You're funny.
I'm like Spider-Man.
You're funny. You were such a climber.
Hey! She's not a jungle gym.
You're funny.
Hey.
You're funny. You're funny. Go. Hey, you wanted to go color. Yeah, go color.
Yeah, come here.
Color.
I have colors for you. Here. Do you want green or orange? Which one's orange? Green or orange? Orange, yeah. Good job.
Yes, I see changes in him every day. Today we went to OT and just watching him climb up a rope. And he got to the top and he was on a ledge and she had to show him how to turn over on his belly to climb back down. And he did it again and he got to the top and he remembered. He knew to turn on his belly and do it. So just watching how he's soaking up stuff and being able to adapt it so quickly is pretty impressive. Now, if only that would work with the eating. That's probably still our biggest challenge is eating.
Yeah, eating's it's a task. The therapist came out because he needed to eat. And it probably took him, 10 minutes to really take his first bite. But what he'll eat and how he'll eat and when he'll eat are very challenging stuff.
I think the goal is to develop the relationships with the girls first and to be more compliant on behaviors that don't involve food or eating. He gets really worked up when new foods are introduced to him. It's a good 10, 12 minutes before he'll even consider eating anything else. So we have to get past that and probably introduce it to him a lot and let him play with it more and just get that fear and anxiety out of him. But it's going to be a slow process, I think.
He's making something very intricate. And I'm surprised. I was talking to Susanna because he's so into textures and how things feel, and I was surprised that he even wanted to touch it.
We had peaches in front of him today with applesauce and tried to make it fun to run trains through, and he was not happy about the whole thing.
Can we squish it?
Are you all done with the Play-Doh?
Yeah, let's go.
I'm
Let's
done.
go clean up. Clean up. Thank you. Good job.
Uh-oh, you don't want to be done here.
We can play with it later, Jack Riley. We're done for now, okay?
You want to eat?
Are you hungry?
Are you hungry? You want lunch?
Do you want to watch Pocoyo with lunch? Pocoyo? Oh, Jack.
How has it been like just adjusting to there's days when he's having therapy and he's having difficulty, he's crying and
Those are hard on us because I think we're both overly sensitive anyway, and he's your son. Those days haven't been that many where he's like emotionally drained or anything. I think he's made the adjustment maybe better than we have.
Thursday, I remember sitting in my office and hearing him cry pretty hard, and I had to call a girlfriend. Mike was gone, so I had to call a girlfriend, and I was pretty close to tears. And she talked me off the ledge, which was a good thing. But since then, it's been easier to hear him. I haven't heard it as bad, or it hasn't felt as bad, but I know it's good for him, and I know that he's being asked to do things that he's not used to being asked to do. So there's nothing wrong with that.
This one. What color? Green. Green, yeah.
Last night there were bubbles on a page, and not only did he say bubble and pointed at all the bubbles, but then he decided to pop the bubbles and started saying pop. And so he's using the words right, and that book, I think we went through every page and he found something on every page that he knew the word for.
Go get him. Pop.
Nothing is easy for him anymore, even with us. I think if he wants to do anything or if he wants to try anything, he has to ask us for it or say the color or do something. So I think we learned that from ABA.
Pocoyo or Baby Babble? Babble.
Good choice.
Baby Babble.
Baby Babble. That's good talking. We have all
Bubbles.
bubbles.
Pop. If he's watching a video with you, he turns and make sure you get. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? So he's fully engages you to make sure you're paying attention, and that's great because I like when he looks at my eyes.
Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon Penrod.
And I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson. It's good to be here.
It's fabulous to have you
on
here.
On a Wednesday?
I know.
Where does the week go?
I know. It's already Wednesday, but it's very exciting to have you here, and we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on today.
Yes, we do.
I have a grin plastered on my face. Well, I do, because I always get excited when people come and visit us, and also people who their intentions and their actions are aligned in a way that is really beneficial for all of us. I'm just very happy about that.
Yes, we have a little surprise guest in the studio who's going to come out a bit later.
Yes.
And we're going to have some fun. That's our Let's Have Some Fun segment.
Very exciting.
So, but first we're going to do a little bit of In the News.
Yes.
As always, new studies, new developments, and
trying to make sense of all
and trying to make sense of them, because for all you neuroscientists out there, I might botch some of these words, so please
but I think that almost all of us are in the same boat. We're parents who didn't go to school for neuroscience, and we're trying to understand what these things mean.
And we know a lot more about the brain than we probably want to at this point in our lives. So
thank you.
And this is even the place where they did this study. Professors at the Biozentrum University of Basel have identified a specific dysfunction in neuronal circuits that is caused by autism. And the study showed that autism can be triggered by a mutation in over 300 genes, including a specific gene of interest called neuroligin 3. Now, what is really important about this is because they were able to reverse this. And you could see that the normal level of behavioral issues in the mice reappeared. Okay, normal behavior, the autistic-like behavior disappeared. They said once the production of neuroligin 3 was reactivated, the overproduction of the glutamate receptors was reduced to its normal level. Okay. So it has to do with neuronal circuits in the brain, levels of glutamate, and the exciting news in this study is that it appeared to be reversible. So it's saying that the major, it was in Science Daily, if you want to read more, for all you science nerds and geeks out there that love this stuff. And it said the findings are an important step in drug development for the treatment of autism, because apparently these substances can be reproduced, and possibly there is a drug that could be developed out of this that could reverse these symptoms. So that's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting, and all a little bit over my head, but and looking at a very specific type of autism, maybe not applied to everyone. And as we know, phenotyping autism is a huge issue. We need to make that happen in the next couple of years, because I think we've all come to understand it's not just autism anymore; it's autisms. That there's different kinds, but as research gets done, we're learning more, we're getting closer to being able to understand, because in our lifetime, my hope is that if a child is going to be diagnosed with autism, it can be done really early, which we're going to talk about how early in this next study.
I want you to know there's an interesting statement here in the release on this, which was in Science Daily. Vision for the future, medication for autism. Autism currently cannot be cured. In Science Daily, they say this. At present, only symptoms of the disorder can be alleviated through behavior therapy and other treatment. Now, obviously, a lot of people would argue with that. Now, cure is a word we're very careful about not throwing around. But recovered, you and I have both seen many children who have been recovered.
Recovered, but I think recovered is different than cured.
Yes.
I do think that those words are entirely different. I know the connotations for both of them, we can all get bogged down in it, but I think a lot of people assume that when somebody says recovered that they're talking cured, and I do think it's different. I always say that when you break a bone and the bone is broken and it heals, and you can use it, it's mended and it's healed and whatever, but you're still going to have twinges, and you're still going to have to make accommodations for it, and it's changed forever. It's changed forever, and that's how I look at recovery from autism. It's changed forever.
But I think too often this phrase is thrown around. There is no cure.
No.
And I think too many many doctors use it. I think too many professionals use it. And I think it would be better for us to adopt a new language where we say, you know, autism, many children recover, and all children can be made better. We know that today.
Yeah, we absolutely know that today.
It's not a static situation.
But I hope that someday you can take your child in, they can say, your child has type 32A autism, and here's the protocol for that we know exactly works, and you don't have to monkey around with anything else. It takes 35 hours of ABA, and it takes this medicine and this, and your prognosis will be, and that happens on the first day. And that's what phenotyping autism can do, and all of these things will help us along the way. But of course, until we get there, early diagnosis is the key right now. And there's another study that came out that said that genetic tests can now predict a risk for autism. So that if you have a family that you've had autism in your family and you're concerned and you have your child, we're not talking about in utero with this one, that there is a test that will measure genetic markers to see if you are at risk for, if your child is at risk for an autism spectrum diagnosis. There's a sliding scale, so it's not going to be definitive of, oh, this child will have autism, or, you know, I mean, like everything else, it's a sliding scale that will show you a score, which hopefully then if you get a higher score, it will make you mindful of making sure that your child is screened on a regular basis. The difficult part is that it's looking for genetic markers to see for the genetic types of autism, when we know that isn't necessarily the case with everyone. So what we do want to say is cautionary if this is something that you're interested in now or in the future, that even if your child comes back with no markers, it doesn't mean your child doesn't need to be screened.
That's right.
But it could present a thing for you to say, okay, this child in particular, maybe we should start as soon as possible.
And another study that is very similar in terms of it's something, I guess, a warning that we should all be aware of, and that is autistic-like traits emerge early in high-risk siblings. What they're finding is this study from McMaster University, the study of infant siblings of children with ASD, researchers found autistic-like traits by the age of 12 months. The findings revealed that younger siblings of children with autism are at risk of experiencing difficulties in communication, cognitive skills, anxiety regulation. Even if they do not develop ASD, they're at risk of developing some of these. And that furthermore, the study revealed that these autism-like traits could be seen as early as 6 months. So the bottom line on this one is that it demonstrates the need to meticulously follow the developmental progress of children whose older siblings have ASD.
Yeah, and I'm encouraged by the fact that they're seeing things as early as 6 months in some cases, because the earlier we can get in, I want to have, there's a couple of women in Riverside that I want to have on the show. We got to meet them briefly when we were at the ABAI conference, but they're in Riverside and they're working with children before they get a diagnosis who are deemed at risk with great results. Like there's a possibility.
So siblings, they have older siblings?
They have siblings and kids who, like these 6-month and 12-month, where they're showing just one little trait, like maybe not responding when their name is, they're not going to qualify for a diagnosis yet, but they get in and do therapy with them that early, and they're having a great success rate that their kids aren't actually needing a diagnosis. So maybe we can get there ahead of it.
So to your parent, I think what we take away from this too is that for your parents out there who already have a child on the spectrum, and I know I talk to many parents who say it's such a great concern. If they have a child on the spectrum, they want another child, they're so nervous, they're so worried. Well, you do need to be a little more cautious. You do need to be watching these things, and you do need to be, if you see any signs, 6 months, take them in.
Yeah, it's not, there's no time that's too early.
That's right. No time that's too early.
You got to be really proactive.
The earlier the better. You're lucky.
I always say, you know, we talk about early intervention, and for all of us, early means now. And if your child is 3 months old, that's now. If your child is 30, that's now. Now.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to take a break.
Okay,
and
we're going
tell
to take
them
a break.
who our guest is.
We have one of my favorite performers, Ricky J. He's a rapper. He is just the coolest guy. Isn't he cool?
Yeah, and very handsome
He's very
young man.
handsome young man. He's very, I don't know if you can see any of this, but he's a very handsome young man. He has performed for ACT Today, Autism Care Treatment Today, at a number of our charity events, and he always just, everybody just loves this guy. He gets people out of their seats. He gets them dancing. He's a rap artist, international rap artist, and I think he's going to break big in the United States. He's very popular in Canada, and we want to talk to him about why he does what he does, why he helps, because I think he really believes he can contribute to making the world a better place. So we're going to talk to him when we come back. That's refreshing. Okay, we'll be back.
Currently in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're gonna take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Grandpichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh? Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some guesses?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Hi, we're back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And Shannon and I have a special guest here today. Ricky J, how are you, Ricky?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm just checking out some of your bling. And yeah, not as much bling as a lot of rappers wear, but
No, they have a lot bigger budgets. So
oh, okay,
bigger
okay.
budgets. I'm just
now, okay.
You have the bigger heart.
Yes, the bigger heart.
Yeah,
and the bigger talent.
Now,
So
yeah,
that
some
doesn't
people
need the bling.
Some people may be watching, going, "Okay, a rapper and autism. You know what's the deal?" Now you're You are from Canada.
Canada, Canadian. Go
Yeah,
Canada.
go Canada. But you're internationally known. You
Yeah,
play a
trying-
lot, you
Trying
know.
to be out there, you know.
Yeah.
Once you're on the internet, you're good.
You are, yeah.
We have your CD here.
Yeah, this is your new CD.
Yep.
And we found out about you, and you came to perform at not just one of our fundraisers, but two. You traveled great distance, and you brought down the house, so to speak. It was
and
great.
I want to know what, because it doesn't always go hand in hand, rappers and autism. What made you want to donate your time to this cause, to Act Today, to autism? Why would you want to do that?
Well, I actually know a few people back in Canada. I have like a few girlfriends. Oh, well, I know a lot of girls, so.
You mean just friends that are girls,
Yes,
or a
just
few
friends-
girlfriends?
friends
I see.
that are girls, and then,
we don't want to get you in trouble here.
One of them has a son that has autism, and I didn't really know much about it before. I mean, I knew it when I came to Nancy and the whole organization, and I kind of grew more of an understanding for it. So I was like, why not do something, or try and do something that's beneficial, or if I could help the organization any kind of way to help and benefit the kids and get them better, or find the funding, I'm there. Like, it's just, to me, it was just a really good cause, and it wasn't something like, there's a lot of causes out there. There's cancer, this and that, but this one kind of centers a lot of kids. Like, it doesn't really give them a chance, right? So, but a lot of kids find out, the parents find out, by 2 years old.
Hopefully.
Generally,
Yeah,
hopefully.
exactly. Hopefully, right? So
Yeah.
I just want to do something really good and just try and be a part of something that's just not myself and not just about me, about other people.
Well, I was saying to you beforehand that the juxtaposition, I'm sure you're aware of 50 Cent, who he is, and that he made some comments that were not helpful. Can we?
No, they were.
I mean, that's the nicest thing I could say.
You were actually more up on this on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
Was it on Twitter?
Yeah, he had a fan who made some comments on Twitter that the comments were completely inappropriate that the fan made, wildly inappropriate.
Right.
But 50 Cent's response was, he said, "Fool, I saw your picture, you look autistic." And then he wrote back and said, "I don't need no special ed kids following me, so follow somebody else."
Wow.
And of course, it was a firestorm of people saying, wow, you didn't need to go there, and that's so inappropriate.
And our friend Holly Robinson Pete took him on. She was like, I thought you were a good businessman. I thought you got how important it is to have a fan base. Well, you don't get it at all, because 1 in 88, and that's conservative.
And some of them are your fans. But we just wondered, I mean, so I have this this rapper here who's not being helpful and who barely made an apology and thought that would cover it. And here we have you here as a rapper setting an entirely different example. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. I don't know if you want to step into the controversy or not.
He can kind of bring down a career, but
you don't have to go
there. You don't have to say anything negative about 50 Cent, but
I just don't think certain people that have that kind of following, because I mean, there's a lot of people on Twitter, and certain artists have a lot of following. I do think sometimes they go overboard with comments, especially that, like, the autism and looking autism. I've seen kids perfectly, normal,
there's no
superstars.
way you can tell by looking at someone if they have autism, and you know that by the children you've been
I've been around, so I don't think a comment like that is really wise to me, because you're affecting a lot of people at the same time, and to me, nobody realizes your tongue and your mouth is really a weapon that you could use. So I think I didn't agree with it,
especially as a rapper.
No, exactly. No, but I mean, he's far out there. But in terms to go after a certain organization or a certain group, because that's really targeting one person, one kind of group, right? It's not saying, well, you look like a cancer patient or so and so. It's just like,
can you imagine the outrage?
That'd be another outrage.
Right.
So I just don't think. I just think certain comments should just be really just left aside. So you could say anything else you want. I mean, not that it's right, but you could really say anything else you want.
Well, you seem to think that giving back is an important part of an entertainer's life. Why do you feel that way?
I just think because, I mean, being entertainment, music and entertainment, we all know it's hard. I mean, it's not easy because there's a lot of sacrifice. But once you're in a position that you can help somebody, because I see a lot of people that have money and they just don't do anything for anybody else, and not just investing in somebody else, but they also just, hey, I don't have time, but they do have there is a little bit of time. Like, it's like people that can't answer the text. There's text, emails, you can get to somebody somehow. So I just think it's important, because especially people with a name or a brand, it's easier to also open up certain doors. You know, when you have an organization, sometimes it's easier to say, well, you know, we have so-and-so that's helping out. Other people kind of listen, take it a little bit more seriously, rather than like, oh, it's just for some money thing or whatever, what have you. But I do think it's important because, you know, being an artist, you're kind of not a role model, but you are in a certain spotlight. So you should do,
absolutely.
You know, we do a lot of stupid things, so we should kind of offset the stupid things by doing a bunch of good things.
Well, I can tell you my little boy adores rap, adores it, and I'm going to be very excited to play this for him, Paint the Town. This is your new release?
Yeah, new album in Canada. Now we're working it here. It's more like a pop. It's a little bit of blend. It's a little bit urban, a little bit of pop, a little bit of dance.
Right.
I try and keep it very... I grew up in the club scene, so I'm very like...
Well, the club scene is it now. That's the kind of music that is really...
I mean, you saw it, the Denim Diamonds.
Yes,
you know, they
you
got
did
up.
What a Night, which I love. Yeah. Now, how can people find out more about you? Website, YouTube, how do they...
Website, rickyj.com. So simple, RICKYJ.com. There's nothing fancy to it. Or YouTube, it's under, youtube.com/RickyJ Music.
Yeah.
And Twitter's official Ricky J. I try and keep all my names in there.
Keep it simple. That's good. Yeah, I can tell you, if you are at your computer now, go to YouTube and pull up What a Night, WHATTA, What a Night. And it really is a great song. You had everybody just up on stage even last year.
Actually, we got the pictures. So
people were up on stage last year, and it was just really fun. And you're a great entertainer, and a humanitarian, and I think that's really important. Thanks for the example you set.
Oh no, thank you. I mean, like I said, if you need me, I'm there.
Okay. Well, and I just want to say, as a plea to our parents, you know, there's a lot of things we don't have control over, and we don't have control over things that people say or don't say or do or don't do, but we do have control over who we support and how we support them. And so if you have children who are interested in rap and you want something that's positive, that makes a change, this is the CD that you want to get, and this is the gentleman that you want to support because he supports us. And that's something positive that we can do today. So I want to encourage you to do that. And Ricky, I want to thank you for all that you do. It's so important to us, and it means a lot to all of us.
Oh, it means a lot to me to be a part of something good. And Nancy's a great woman to know. She's just
she?
Energy.
She's
always,
a warrior.
And she's a hard worker. That I know.
Yes,
she never even has time to answer emails sometimes, and because you're out in the field, and I know what you do, and I respect that. And that's why when I see people doing really good things for a great cause and to help kids and try and find a cure, try and get them the right medication, what have you, and treatment, then I'm all for it.
Well, Ricky, we appreciate you.
Thanks,
and
Ricky.
thank you for being part of our family.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have via Skype special guest Denise Fulton from the Autism Research Institute talking about their upcoming convention, so stick with us.
I'm Monique Erickson. I'm a senior supervisor here at CARD in the training department.
What are some things we should take into consideration when we're working with school-age children?
I think when you're looking at school-age children, what you need to consider is, one, that they're in school all day. They're school-age. So what that means to us is that they're going to be tired by the time they get home. They're having a full day of hopefully demands being placed on them so that they're learning in that environment. But by the time they're home, they've had a pretty good full day at that point already, so you're looking at catching them at the end of their day, the tail end. So I think that's a really big consideration when you're looking at realistically how much time can you get into that day, what can you expect from them at that hour of the day, and so forth.
Realistically, how long can they work?
When you're looking at how long the school-age kids can work, you just remember their day. They've already had a full day, and so you're probably getting them later in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock, you're maybe getting a couple hours in, maybe going till 6 or so. So you need to take that into consideration. They've had a long day. How long they can work really depends on that child and engaging, when do they start to lose focus? When I've given them breaks and they really can't refocus. That by 5:30 they're done, and it's too difficult, or it's not really effective anymore to move forward later into the evening. So I think that, again, looking at the child as an individual and just gauging how long can they go. It's not going to be, you're not going to be getting 4 hours in after a long school day. That's much too much to expect.
How often should we give a school-age child a break, and how long of a break should it be?
just by the unfortunate nature of the day, you're running out of time, so there isn't a really big gap between them getting home typically and when you can get that last stretch of the teaching time in. So you want to give them a break. You may have to get started sooner than, maybe they could use a longer break, but there really isn't time to allow for that. A good way to do that is just kind of ease into your session. So maybe start with those lighter lessons that you might have. If you're working on adaptive skills, maybe starting with some of that stuff, maybe having a snack and building into your session so that you go to those more difficult things. But also keeping in mind that you also don't want to say the most difficult thing for the 6 o'clock hour, because that may not be the best time to do that either, because it is such a long day. So I think you have to really know your child, gauge how that day was. Are they really spent from the day that they've had so far? And organize yourself accordingly. And that may vary from day to day. But I do think starting with maybe a snack or easing into that session a little bit with some lighter lessons is a good idea.
How do you keep a school-age child motivated?
I think that there are school-age children that are difficult to motivate or may have different motivators, and there's younger children that are difficult to motivate. So it really is probably a more individualized, looking at that individual person and seeing what is motivating to them and what we need to do. So it might be a little bit different more with older children, but I think that that's probably something we're always looking at when we're doing this type of intervention.
Where can we go to look for ideas of how to motivate them?
When you're looking at motivating our school-age children, I think you want to first, they're an individual, look at what's reinforcing to them. Every child is going to be different, so it's really hard to say this will work for this child, this won't. You have to really look at that child as an individual and assess what they like and may not like. Some good strategies or thoughts, that might help you is maybe looking at their typical peers and what are they doing? What are those school-age children doing? What do they like to talk about and what are they playing with? And try to introduce those to our children. They may take to them right away and they may not, but if you introduce them and kind of guide them in that direction, we might be able to get them on more age-appropriate, types of reinforcers that will be able to mesh better with their peers when we get to the point of having play dates and so forth and working on those social skills.
And what should our expectations be of working with a school-age child?
When you're working with school-age children, some of the things we can expect is, hopefully at that point we have some of the behaviors under control. They're better able to attend and participate in their lessons, but the curriculum starts to change. What we're working on tends to change, and so it may not be going as fast and making these huge leaps and bounds with some of the curriculum areas that we had early on that are more kind of just things that they can memorize and add to their repertoire, like expanding their noun repertoire, their names of objects and so forth. The curriculum starts to get a little more advanced and requires more, so it may take a little bit longer to go through those programs, and that's okay. You should know that because that's what's expected. It's going to take longer to learn some of these skills. We're looking for concept formation versus just memorizing certain information or facts. So I think that that's one thing you can expect. May not go as fast, but that's okay. That's how it is moving through the curriculum. Maybe that they may not have the same amount of energy because they are in school all day and it is the tail end of the day. They are possibly tired, so it may not, you may require more energy on your part or more resourcefulness in coming up with those reinforcers and keeping them motivated and keeping them going. Reading their body language. Do I need to take a break? Do I need to let them get up and move around a little bit to pep them back up so we can keep going? I think those are some things that come to mind when we're looking at what to expect with those kids.
Hi, welcome back to Let's Talk Autism. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
I'm Shannon Penrod.
And we have a new guest.
We have a wonderful guest that's going to be joining us via Skype, a mom, an autism mom, Denise Fulton. She is the administrative director for their conference that is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Denise, are you there with us? There she is.
I'm here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here today.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here, and we wanted to start by talking a little bit about ARI, right?
What does ARI stand for, and what is the conference, and what is ARI?
So ARI stands for the Autism Research Institute, and ARI is actually the oldest autism research organization in the world. It was founded in 1967 by Bernard Rimland, who is sort of the father of modern thinking on autism. And ARI spends a lot of time disseminating information, providing conferences and online resources for families and professionals everywhere in the world.
Okay, and you've got a big conference coming up. Tell us about that. Yeah.
We do. We're going to be in Orange County at the Hyatt Regency Orange County from October 11th to the 14th.
And what kinds of things happen at one of your conferences?
Well, the conference is comprehensive. We really try to offer something for everybody, from medical professionals to therapists to educators to parents and even individuals with autism. Families in Southern California are close, so obviously we're trying to reach out to them to provide them the information that they need so that they can start an effective treatment plan for their loved ones on the spectrum.
And this year, is it? I noticed when I looked at the flyer, you've got lots of different tracks, it looks like, this year, and I don't remember you guys ever doing that before. Is this the first time, or am I just behind?
No, we've added some new features, but the tracks have always been there.
Okay.
We've always had general and science tracks. When it was first founded, the real vision that Dr. Evelyn had, along with his partners Sid Baker and John Pangborn, was to have a science meeting. But there was so much need for information that it actually grew, and they added parent tracks. And then recently, in the last couple of years, we also added a track for adult services issues. And then we have clinician seminars, level 1 and level 2 for medical professionals.
And of course the parent track.
Oh, yes. The general parent track is the largest track. It's
yes.
most comprehensive, and it goes for 3 days. So that's probably the track that you remember the best.
Yes, that was the first time I had ever heard Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet speak, and it was the first time I had heard our doctor who worked with my son, Dr. Andrew Levinson, speak, and I have to say that was an extremely life-changing event for my family. It was the first time that anybody gave out information that absolutely made sense to me about what was going on with my son, with not just his brain, but his body. And I called my husband and said, I just heard and met some people who are going to change our son's life. So that's how powerful this can be.
So that was where you learned about autism as a complex whole body disorder. It sounds like that gave you the access you needed to information about the neurological, neurological, immunological, and gastrointestinal issues that are so closely wrapped into this disorder. Is that right?
That's right, Denise. It really, I had really been presented by others. Well, first of all, I'd never even heard the words ABA therapy. I never had been told that there was a therapy that literally could retrain the way your child processes things and thinks and opens up certain neuropathways. I knew that my child was sick. I knew that there was something going on with his whole body, that Wyatt was not, that it wasn't psychological.
Right.
And when I heard these brilliant doctors, and when I say brilliant, these are doctors from Harvard and, very well-respected, University of Virginia, that really are in the forefront of research into autism. And it really made sense finally, because I think so many people were talking about this as a mystery. There's no cure, there's no hope, there's nothing. And I realized there's a lot that can be done. And my life and my family's life changed that day. So I just want to go on record as saying it was going to an ARI conference that happened. So.
And I would like to ask you, when you guys put together the conference, what kinds of people are you hoping who should come to this conference?
Well, ARI is really striving to reshape perceptions about how people think about this disorder. So we hold a scientific think tank every year, and we invite the top speakers, top people we can think of, the great minds, and try to get them all in a room together, and then we vet them, and we pick the best peer-reviewed research at the forefront. So we're really looking for new information. We're trying to find new evidence-based, scientifically sound information that we can share with families. And ARI is unique in that we're really looking sort of at cutting edge, but we're also really focusing on making sure that it's being checked and talked about before we put it on the stage. That's one of the things we're really proud of, and it was one of the things that our founder felt really strongly about.
Now, I noticed you have a special presentation on Friday, October 12th. This sounds really interesting to me. Ken Cook, who's co-founder and president of the Environmental Working Group, and that's, I see, a major force in national policy debates over toxic chemicals, pesticides, air and water pollution, and the environmental impacts of modern agriculture. Now, I see we have the information up there. Now, obviously, this is a big issue with our children as we're learning that our children have an inability to detoxify in the way that other neurotypical children do. So can you tell us a little bit about that, Denise?
About Ken Cook or about
yes, about that presentation that's free, as I see.
I think we're all seeing this sort of synergy. A lot of ideas are coming together, and I think that a lot of the objectives of what they do at EWG mesh with what we believe at ARI, and they're leaders on their end on trying to find out more information that families and individuals need to know for their health. And that really ties in with what we're trying to teach. So I think our objectives with that are twofold. I mean, obviously we want to attract more people to the information so that they're aware. And Ken Cook's a great resource, and a lot of people will be really interested in seeing him, I think. But I think the other thing is that helping people make that connection and understand those things, sort of the big picture, and see that what we eat and what we put on our bodies and the things that we are exposed to are things not just that ARI is thinking about, but that larger groups are also thinking about. Mm-hmm. And it's not a new idea, but the ARI is actually embracing the idea that our environment affects our kids.
Wonderful. We're going to take a break and show a clip that you sent to us about toxic substances and why we all need to be concerned about that. And when we come back, we want to talk to you more about the conference, but about your story, how you came into the field of autism, why that's a particular interest to you. But I want to ask our viewers to take a look at this message that Denise sent for us.
Chemicals are showing up on the front page of newspapers for the same reason that they're showing up in babies. A very weak law that was passed a long time ago and has never since been modernized. It's the Toxic Substances Control Act, and my message to you tonight is we need to fix this thing. The Toxic Substances Control Act grandfathered in 62,000 industrial chemicals in 1976 and presumed that they were safe. The law does not require any health or safety studies before a new chemical is allowed onto the market. None. Of the chemicals that come to EPA for approval, 80% are approved within just 3 weeks. And in the history of TSCA, as it's called, only 5 chemicals, only 5 have been banned or restricted. This law is so weak that when the first Bush administration tried to ban asbestos, it was challenged in court and lost. This is a law that protects polluters. It protects companies. It protects profits. And what we need is a law that protects people and public health.
Welcome back. That was Ken Cook.
That will make you think, and as Denise said, Ken Cook, who is going to be doing a free special presentation October 12th at the ARI conference. Now, you can register ariconference.com to attend the conference, and you also have a variety of discounts and some volunteering opportunities. Is that right, Denise?
Yes, it's definitely our objective to make the conference accessible to anybody who wants to come. So we've got volunteer slots for people who want to help us out. It's a pretty easy gig. Usually they just need to be by the door to help people if they need assistance. We also have conference discounts called Angel Funds, and we have group discounts. So if you're coming with a friend, we have a buddy discount that automatically gets applied. So there are all sorts of ways to get there, and we hope people find their way there.
Great. Now you wanted to know, you had mentioned Denise's own story. We always like to hear how you got involved in the field. We came to it from our own children. And can you tell us, Denise, a little bit about your background.
Yes, before autism, I worked as a newspaper reporter, and I worked in marketing and ended up working at a company, in a California-based company called VeriSign, and did that for many years and had no idea that I would somehow get hijacked off that path. But in 2003, my son was diagnosed with autism. His name's Grant. And after his diagnosis, I went on my own journey, like so many moms do, you talk about. And it led me to several organizations, including ARI and another group who's helped us so much personally, Talk Autism.
We had Lisa Ackerman on last week. A good friend of ours, and we really support the work of TACA. But go on, please.
Yeah. And so I used those resources to find out more about. It did make sense to me that our son was sick as well as had the behavioral issues, because he had a lot of physical symptoms that weren't being addressed in occupational therapy and speech therapy.
Right.
And so we went on our own odyssey to figure those things out. And we found that as we addressed his medical issues, his therapies became dramatically more effective. So we used ABA therapy, and we actually worked with we didn't have a lot of resources where we live, so we worked with the organization CARD that you're associated with. And we saw tremendous growth in our son. Today he is in a 4th grade classroom. He is able to attend school on his own, so he's made really great strides.
No, he doesn't have an aide or any assisted?
He does not at this time. He's in a regular classroom. So
incredible.
He still has many things, he has things that we're working on, but we feel like we needed to give that back. So in 2006, I met with Dr. Rimland. This was before he passed away, and also with Steve Edelson, who directs ARI now. And we had several conversations, and in the end, they asked me if I would help. So I ended up coming on board as an administrative sort of assistant, and now I help out with the conference. So I've been really lucky. I feel very blessed, and it's been a fabulous experience to get to help other parents, but also learn so much myself.
Well, that's just great. And, Shannon and I were called in the same way, and I believe, this path chose all of us. We may not have chose it, but whatever skills we have, it was recognized, and we've been brought into this journey. I'm glad you brought up Dr. Rimland, because he is the ultimate pioneer in autism, and he was the game changer for all of us to realize that our children did not have some strange psychological disease that was caused by refrigerator mothering, and that there was a real process going on here with their bodies affecting their brains. And what a great man he was. And the work of ARI is such a great testament to what he started.
I think one thing to always remember with him too is that he spoke of it as a whole body disorder in 1967. There's news footage of him on CBS in 1967 talking about this. So he had that perspective from the beginning, and he mentions it in his book right at the beginning, in the book that Infantile Autism. So he was visionary, and he really created a great thing by saying what he thought and creating information even when there wasn't any, it inspires me every day. That's why we do what we do.
And I have to say, we talk a lot with different moms about different things, and it seems like all of us know what I wish everybody else knew, that our kids are all individuals, and that they are whole people, that autism is a part of what they are. And even Holly Robinson Peete, when she was here, was saying about, it seems like with autism there's these camps, these different camps, and that when we all come together and acknowledge that our child is a whole child and needs a whole lot of support and help in different areas. And I think everybody's coming to that. One of the things that I was particularly drawn to for Dr. Doreen Granbouchet is that she talks about the whole child. She isn't just saying ABA, ABA, ABA to parents. She's saying ABA, but your child has other needs that need to be taken care of.
Yes, you need to look at the medical, the whole body as well.
And I appreciate that ARI talks about those medical things, but they don't try to say that ABA isn't helpful on this path as well.
Right.
That it's a whole child.
Yeah, Denise, it's interesting to remind people that, I think it's important to remind people that before Dr. Rimland published his book, which changed, it galvanized the medical community, that there were Freudian psychiatrists who were putting children in institutions that probably were moderate to high functioning and forcing them to spit on statues representing the mother as a cure for autism. This is how archaic things were before Dr. Rimland. Isn't that right?
It's true. I mean, those things have been documented. I mean, I'm not an expert on that particular piece of what Bettelheim was doing, but yes, Dr. Rimland, I know, had been told when Mark was diagnosed, his son, that it was parenting, and that he was outraged that he didn't agree. He knew that his son was loved and that he and his wife had wanted to have a family. I mean, that's my understanding of the story. Obviously, I wasn't there. But that inspired him to go on that journey and prove it wrong. And I think that's just amazing. I mean, he spent many years of his life working on that book in his own time and did an amazing thing for all of us who followed, who know that certainly wasn't the case, that it was not parenting.
Well, we're really excited about this conference, and Emily, our technical director, and I are trying to work it out so that we can come down and be there at least a couple of the days.
I'm hoping
since
to
you're so
come
close,
too.
I
Yes.
hope so too. But you do 2 different conferences a year, correct? A spring and a fall.
We actually we do 3 events a year. We do the spring and fall conference, but we also have our think tank that we hold annually. And I think I mentioned that already, so I don't want to belabor it. But that's the meeting where we get all the science and researchers and physicians together privately to do the vetting and decide what will be presented on stage. And I did want to say too, everything that we offer isn't just on stage. ARI since 2004 has offered free videos from the conference online. So families, it was very important to us that if families can't attend, that they have access to that information no matter where they are in the world. So the videos are online on the autism.com website. Anybody in the world can tune in at any time. We have them in different formats. We're trying to account for everybody's different technical needs. We want to make sure that if they need to learn more and they're not able to be in Orange County next month, that they aren't deprived of those latest updates. And we're really proud of that. And that's a big part of what we do. We also, before I got on the phone with you, concluded a webinar. We're doing live webinars now. We had a webinar with Dr. Sydney Baker, who is one of the founders at ARI. And these are also free to anybody who wants to attend. And people can tune in and then they can ask questions. And we're trying to facilitate as much open communication as we can. We see that as a big part of what Dr. Emlyn would have wanted us to do.
Well, it's incredible what you guys are doing. I wanted to bring up the 2 conferences because when I was early into this, I couldn't get to the conference, so I was watching the videos. But if you can get to a conference, there is a level of what happens and the ability to get together and meet with people or walk up to a doctor and introduce yourself and have a conversation. It's invaluable. Right. So for people who can get to the West Coast in just a couple of weeks, I want to tell them how they can do that. And for those of you who are closer to the East Coast, maybe in the spring you want to go to one, or just put it in the back of your head that maybe 2 years from now, maybe you can get to a conference, and until then, watch the videos. So where do we want to tell them again to go to register?
It's the Hyatt Regency. Go ahead.
They can go to autism.com or they can go directly to the conference site at ariconference.com. Either one of those sites gets you to the registration. And registration's been up for months. It'll actually be up until just before the conference. It is cheaper to register ahead of time and easier too, because you can just walk in. Then you don't have to worry. You make a great point about what happens when you're actually at the conference. It's much different. You can find people who are in the same place you are. You can find out information directly from people you would never have access to unless you're there in person. And we do, like I said, we have volunteer slots, so if people need to go for free, they can. We also have our angel funds, which make it much reduced. And we encourage people to reach out to us if they really need help, and we'll try to work with them to find a way to get them there.
And is there a place on the site where they can go to volunteer that's really clear, or do they need to do something, send an email if they need help?
Yeah, they just register. There's when they go into register, volunteer is one of the options.
Okay, great.
You can just register. It's pretty easy. They just need to fill out the form, and then we'll get them a slot and we'll get them signed up.
Okay,
So let's reiterate that it's at the Hyatt Regency in Orange County, October 11th through 14th, featuring top experts on medical, nutritional, educational strategies, and workshops and support for teenagers and adults. So,
Absolutely. And on that first night, on the Thursday night, correct me if I'm wrong, Denise, that first night you have two groups. You have one, a parent roundtable, and another one that are adults on the spectrum, correct?
Actually, on Thursday, we're doing a parent roundtable and a professional roundtable.
Okay, but there is one night where it's individuals on the spectrum, isn't it?
It is. On Friday night, we're having Ken Cook, and then we're also going to have a roundtable. It's not really a roundtable. Actually, it's a panel of adults on the spectrum talking about what it's like, about how they've dealt with issues throughout their lives and how they've overcome some.
And if you have adult children, could be a wonderful event to attend and have them see some of their peers and be able to talk to them. Invaluable.
And actually, on Saturday, the workshops for adults are going to be interactive. So we'll be offering support. They'll be working on different strategies. They're going to do some sensory projects and that kind of thing. So we're really hoping to reach out to that community and have them join in.
Very exciting. Denise, thank you so much for being with us. I hope we get to meet in just a couple of weeks in person.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thanks for being on, Denise.
Hey, take care.
All right, bye-bye. So, we're going to take a little break?
I think, can we take just a short little break, Emily? Okay. Let's take a short break and we'll be back to finish out the show. Stick with us.
I am grateful for Autism Speaks because they allow families like me to have hope.
They're working towards having these children live better lives.
There's a space for you. Yeah, there's a world for you, and there's a community that is behind you.
And one that has really been able to be the singular voice for people who are involved with and who care about autism.
I do have autism, but I don't let that become a disability for me. Autism Speaks is going to continue to help those who need it, and just look at all the stuff they've done so far and you will be impressed.
3, 2, 1.
And you need to support the walks. We have to raise awareness, but we also have to raise funds to do the work.
I'm grateful for Autism Speaks for one main reason, is they are allowing me to focus on the research.
The work that Autism Speaks has been doing is critical for keeping autism research on the radar screen.
We proclaimed 2 April as the World Autism Awareness Day. I'm very proud of the UN and thankful Autism Speaks.
Getting the health mandate bill passed in New Jersey particularly, we needed to be able to make an argument, not just do this because it's the right thing to do, but do it because it's cost effective.
When everyone else told me nothing was wrong with my son, I got information from a website that told me something wasn't right.
I am so proud of Autism Speaks for creating these beautiful ad campaigns, which have reached people who are not affected by autism and have also created a greater climate of compassion and understanding.
It's been really great for Bachman to have gotten involved with Autism Speaks early on. I think everybody here feels like they really make a difference.
To make sure that we generate as much money as we can for Autism Speaks so we can all solve this puzzle together.
There's no way we could have come this far without our families, without our supporters to date, but there's so much farther we have to go. And everybody's invited to join this cause. We need all the help we can get to make the difference we know we can make.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism
Yeah,
with Shannon
I'm
and
laughing.
Nancy.
Shannon was telling me a joke.
We get silly here sometimes from time to time. But in any case, great show.
Yeah.
Really exciting to have Ricky J here and really exciting to be talking about ARI.
Yeah, and I do want to
Denise.
reiterate that going to an ARI conference changed my life.
Yeah.
So I think meeting all the other parents, hearing the experts, knowing there is hope, hope. That's what.
And there's a resource fair. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information.
Lot you can
I
learn.
will say that it's important that you be well slept when you go there because there's a lot of scientific talk.
Yeah, you gotta.
That, you know.
Like when we were talking at the beginning of the show about neurons and
Yes.
whatever that word was, neuroligin.
Yes. And
you
you will
know,
see
glutamate
peptides.
receptors.
You will see
impaired
slides.
neuronal circuits.
Right.
Yeah.
You will see slides of peptides more than you could ever.
You will know more about the gastrointestinal issues of your child than you ever wanted
Right.
to know.
They have the little things that they put up, slides of poop and things like that.
Yeah.
Be well slept and be prepared for that so that you, because
lots of
I'm not a
caffeine.
science girl. So, but really worthwhile. So definitely. And you will
Extremely.
meet some incredible people. I will tell you, I've met some of the most amazing autism moms
Me too.
going, and they'll lift you up. So definitely, if you can go, and if you can't, don't beat yourself up about it. I couldn't go for
Yeah, you
years.
can, as they said, it's
Watch
online.
what you need to, online, do what you can, do as much as you can, and that's it, and don't beat yourself up about it. We're going to finish the show, but as we finish, the conversation continues.
Yes,
there are
it
lots
does.
of ways for you to get in touch with us, and Emily's going to cycle through some of those different
Right.
ways that you can talk to us.
I want to bring up that we have ACT Today, Autism Care and Treatment Today, has our biggest fundraising event of the year coming
Yes.
up, which is Denim and Diamonds for Autism.
Right.
And it is, we're honoring Joe Mantegna, the wonderful actor and activist.
Dishy.
And another wonderful activist and television executive, Steve Malden, who is general manager of KCBS and KCAL, and his daughter Stephanie was the inspiration of Stephanie's Day, the resource fair.
Wonderful
So if people
event.
want to come see a jam-packed Hollywood-like red carpet deal and a whole night of entertainment, they can go to the ACT Today website or to Denim and Diamonds for Autism, all one word, .net.
And it's
Denim
all
and
to raise
Diamonds
money.
for Autism.net. And it's really a great, fun night.
But the main thing is you're raising funds for those
Raising
grants
funds.
when the grant period comes,
Yes.
so there's more money.
Yes.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow with a lot of exciting stuff. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me.
That's right. And next week we've got Scott Badish from
Autism Society
of America.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very exciting.
We're very excited about that, and we'll see. I'll see you next week. You'll see Shannon tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.